It's Wednesday, June 26, 2013, and this is the Arizona Mining Review. I'm Allison, your host at the Arizona Geological Survey in Tucson. We've got a variety of guests today, including Bob Broscheid, Executive Director of the Natural Resources Review Council, newly set up by Governor Brewer, Dr. Mary Poulton, Chair of the Department of Mining and Geologic Engineering at the University of Arizona. But normally we start off with Nyal Niemuth, Chief of our Economic Geology section, who's calling in from Phoenix. He's going to give us an update on some of the recent developments in mining activity in Arizona. Nyal, good morning.
Good morning, Lee.
Great. Hey, I understand you've got some updated information on copper production in Arizona. What's the news?
Yeah, finally most of those quarterly reports, annual reports have come out, so I've been able to come up with the total production for the state. Maybe we could bring up that first slide and we'll look at some of the numbers. While we're waiting for that to show up, I can tell you that it's pleasant to say that for the first time since the recession started in 2008, we've seen a high level of production. We saw a little over 1.7 billion pounds produced compared to, still working on that slide, right?
I think it's just coming up now.
Great. Compared to the record copper price we had in 2011, which was a little over $4 a pound. We averaged about $3.70 a pound in 2012, resulting in a total value of about $6.5 billion. So that production is one of the three highest out of about the last dozen years. Where does it come from? We can see that Freeport's by far the major producer, accounting for about 3/4 of Arizona's production. ASARCO's a significant contributor, and then we've got a handful of other projects and companies.
Do you expect production's going to continue to increase in 2013?
You know, why don't we look at where some of the mine production comes from, Lee, by mine, and then I'd like to address that. So if we could have that next slide.
Okay, I think we'll bring it up here. Yeah, I think we have it up now.
And so we've got a handful, 6 major mines. One's really large, that's Morenci. We've got a handful of other, there we go, handful of other producers. Ray and Baghdad, quite significant, along with Safford, Ciarita, and Mission. They're all in the near 200 million pound range. So as we look forward, we'll probably see a great increase at Morenci. They're undertaking a large addition to the concentrator. They're going to add enough additional capacity to handle about 25 million tons of ore per year. That's going to produce about an additional 225 million pounds of copper. To do that, they're going to have to mine about 75 million more tons per year. So that's a very, very large increase. That will add alone will add 10% to the state's production. Right at the moment, still happening, that's going to occur in 2014. Right at the moment, we've had the ASARCO Mission mine restart its moly production circuit, and in the third quarter, we should see them bring on 2 additional mills at the old Pima, or the South Mill, to bring that to a total of 4. Having mentioned moly, I'd just like to go back for a second and note that byproduct production from 4 mines, Mineral Park, Baghdad, Ciarita, probably a little bit from Pinto Valley, although none was reported, along with 3 million pounds from Morenci, resulted in a production of 44 million pounds of moly. That price was a little over $12 a pound for the year, and so we'll probably see about another $550 million added to the state's net value of mineral production from moly byproduct.
Nyal, world copper prices are down right now. Is there any talk that you're hearing about how this is going to impact some of this planned production increase in Arizona?
I would certainly say that ASARCO expenditure is pretty much completed, and so that should not be affected. Certainly Freeport, being one of the largest independent copper producers, could restrict their production. I haven't heard of any rumors, though, yet of them cutting back.
Okay.
Obviously, they've been impacted by the accident over in Indonesia that's affected their production. They just recently restarted mining and milling there.
Okay. Nyal, to change topics here, there's a recent article in SME's Mining Engineering magazine that looked at mineral exploration in 2012 worldwide, and it looks like about 11% of the worldwide exploration sites are in the U.S. How many of those are in Arizona, and how does that relate to our exploration or our production in the state?
You know, in that report in the May issue, they said about 12% of the exploration projects that they reviewed were in the United States, were in Arizona. And so that leaves us with just less than 40 that they were monitoring.
Okay, and if I recall in 2012, and this is looking at 12, that we produced about 12% of all of the mineral production in the United States. So it sounds like the amount of exploration going on is somewhat proportional to the amount of production we have in the state. So looks like the investment the companies are making are proportional. Is that your assessment?
You know, that's a good way to look at it. One of the things to remember when they look at that, they're looking both at small grassroots projects as well as a lot of the exploration that occurs, brownfield exploration that occurs around those existing producers. And so we must have a good balance then to get our representative share from those two sets of activities.
You know, the article highlighted 100 of what they called the noteworthy exploration sites around the world, and one of those is in Arizona, right?
Yeah, I was pretty pleased to see that we had one project make that major world list. And
which one was that?
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to have a little more give and take here.
Okay, yeah.
I think we're doing well.
Yeah.
Wildcat Silver over the last 2 years has done quite a bit of drilling, about 185,000 feet. And the criteria used are drilling, so that certainly was a very large amount of drilling. The addition to resources or the new discovery of resources is one of the other criteria. And they reported nearly 200 million ounces of silver defined by that drilling. And so that was the largest amount for any project in their worldwide 100 table. So a pretty significant amount of silver identified.
Okay. One last topic here. I think many people know that the proposed Rosemont copper mine in the Santa Rita Mountains, about 20 miles south of Tucson, has been generating a lot of local opposition from Pima County and from some of the big ag water users out in the area. But the release of the environmental impact statement's been delayed repeatedly by the Forest Service. But we've just heard back from the Forest Service, and you have some news on that, don't you?
Yeah, the Geological Survey is one of the cooperating agencies, and so we've been invited to a meeting held by the Forest Service next Monday. And I think we've got John Spencer's going to attend that, so maybe a little later he can give us an update on what he learns there. But what they're basically going to have is the participating agencies get to see the final, or what hopefully will be the final EIS, Environmental Impact Statement, and then have a 30-day period to make any comments on that final draft. And then so they'll tell us how they're going to deal with any of the comments they receive at that time. And then hopefully it will not be long afterwards where the final EIS is actually released.
Okay.
Hopefully along with that letter of approval to go forward.
Well, a lot of us have been waiting a long time to see that EIS document out, and it's going to be a rush for everybody to examine it over the next 30 days. So, as usual, Nyal, thanks very much. Great information, and we'll have you back next month. Thanks.
Thank you, Lee.
All right. Well, now, joining us live in the studio is Dr. Mary Poulton, Chair of the Department of Mining and Geologic Engineering at the University of Arizona here in Tucson. Mary, welcome to AMR.
Thank you very much, Lee.
And I understand it's a special anniversary for the department this year.
It is. We're celebrating our 125th anniversary, as you are too, and It's great to have been part of helping build this state for so many years. So.
That's great. And I think both of our organizations got their starts dealing with all of the mining exploration going on here in the early days as a territory.
That's exactly right. In fact, I think we both played a big role in Arizona even getting statehood.
That's right. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, great. A lot of self-congratulation
yes,
here between
absolutely.
us. So wonderful. All right. Well, the Lowell Institute at the U of A has become a world center in mineral resources. And it's done it in a really short time. And so, how'd you do that?
It's I think emblematic of the rich resources that we have from a human capital perspective in this state. if you look at the depth and breadth of talent that we have at the University of Arizona in fields that relate to mineral resources, we've been able to tap into 23 different disciplines across 10 colleges at the university. And even though, in a big campus you would expect a lot of people to say, I will absolutely never work on a mining related project, in reality there's a lot of people who are problem solvers, and they want to make a positive contribution to an industry they know is important, but they feel could do better. So we've been able to tap into a lot of latent talent.
Okay, well, how big is the program now? When did it actually get going?
So we started in January of 2009. We had Science Foundation Arizona funding in addition to support from about 20 different companies, plus a national laboratory. And we've been able to leverage that into as many as 75 different projects. We've had about 120 faculty and student researchers working on our projects now.
Okay. This has to be one of the largest programs in the U.S. and maybe worldwide?
Definitely in the U.S. We're by far the largest interdisciplinary research institute devoted to mineral resources.
Wow.
And I think we're top 3 in the world.
Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, where do you go from there?
Right. Well, the struggle is always, what's the next source of funding?
Yeah.
And that's a constant search, but
Right.
we're used to that.
Okay. Well, I know the Bureau of Mines was shut down in the mid-1980s.
Right.
The U.S. Geological Survey this year is talking a 50% reduction
Yes.
in their minerals
Yes.
program. So where do you go for funding?
Well, we have to be creative, and so part of what we look at is what we can do on the service side. And so we have a number of education outreach types of programs that generate revenue, as well as some service activities related to health and safety, helping companies address some of their health and safety issues, as well as client testing with some of our laboratories. So in addition to the research, we look at what we can generate on the revenue side from services we can provide.
Wow. Well, now, I know that workforce development is one of your biggest programs.
Yes.
And I know a lot of folks I know are taking classes and working on the programs.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on what you're doing and how many people you've had
Sure.
through that program?
So we've tried to build a program for non-traditional students, working professionals. And the idea is that the courses are available via distance or in person if they have time, but it's designed to be serving the needs of the working professionals. So we
Okay.
have non-thesis master's degrees for both economic geology and for mining engineering. And they can be taken by people working full-time with distance courses. In addition, we have a novel short course program. So we have about 15 two-day short courses. They're always taught on Fridays and Saturdays.
Oh.
And they're taught by industry experts. And so we'll bring in a CEO of a company, or we'll bring in a leading consultant to talk about a particular topic. And so, for instance, this fall, we have Chris Hopkins from Saint Consulting, who's teaching a short course on the politics of land use permitting. Not an inappropriate topic for the state of Arizona.
Yeah,
and so they're designed to be distance delivered as well as people can be there in person. And we also have 2 10-day geology field courses, and we've trained a lot of the up-and-coming geologists for the global mining industry with these courses. They're constantly oversubscribed.
Wow. And it sounds like then with the distance learning, it's anybody in Arizona and beyond.
Anywhere in the world. I mean,
Okay.
we've had people tune into these short courses from all over the world. And they can take them live or they can take them on demand. So depending on what the time zone is,
okay.
those courses are available.
Okay. And you run a mine.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have the San Javier mine south of Tucson, down near Green Valley. And we've been using it since 1958. We've owned it outright since 1975.
Okay.
It's really become a world-class facility now for teaching and research as well as service.
And this was an operating mine.
It
and
was.
You're running it now.
Yes.
And the students actually get their hands-on experience.
That's exactly
underground
right.
in this one.
It's run like a real mine, but with
Yeah.
students handling all of the positions. And so the students are the mine managers and the foremen, and put the crews together and put the work schedule together, and they're responsible for the safety.
Perfect. Okay. You know, the concept of sustainable mining is still pretty new for a lot of us, but you seem to have become a real global leader in this emerging field. So Can you tell us what's it mean? It's not just trying to keep a mine running longer. What is it? What is the concept, and how are you guys
Right.
involved in it?
It's a critical issue, and the mining industry has actually been in front of all industry in terms of adopting the concepts of sustainability. So it's heartening to be in an industry that's at the forefront, even though people frequently don't associate us with anything related to sustainability.
Right. Yes.
For us, it's managing the water and the energy and the land use footprint. It's finding that second life for the mine site. It's looking at the deep science that goes into support sustainability. And so we're getting down to, say, the soil microbial activity and characterizing the DNA of some of these soil microbes to help us improve vegetation success on mine tailings. And so we tap into just some tremendous expertise that helps mines ultimately be better partners in the communities.
Wow. Okay, you mentioned a minute ago something like 75 projects, I think
Yeah.
you said, that you have going on.
Yeah.
What are some of the ones that you're most excited about, or you think might have some of the biggest impacts?
Right. Well, we've spun out some of the projects into companies already, and I think one that's having the biggest impact relates to mine information technology. So trucks, shovels, dozers all generate tremendous amounts of data. And if you're going to maximally optimize how your mining operation functions, and it's so important now when prices are a little tight, to make sure that your operating costs are as tight as possible. So we bring all of those data into a data warehouse, and then we can create new applications that we push out to iPads and BlackBerries so that they're available to the managers in the fields. And so we can integrate all of the data at a mine site and help lower the operating costs.
So it sounds like you're reaching out with the computer science folks as
Yes.
well.
Oh, management information science has been huge for us in this regard. They're one of the top ranked programs in the world at the U of A.
Right.
And we've been able to hire a lot of the very best talent that department brings in.
That's interesting, because we've been hiring a number of students from that same program
Yes.
to work with us on our data integration on the geothermal and geology side.
Yep.
So it sounds like there may be some partnerships here that we ought to be
Well,
looking at more
absolutely. I
closely.
mean, data
Yeah.
is such an important tool that we have to manage a lot better.
Okay. So where's the next 125 years going, or at least maybe the next 5 years? Where do you see things going? For
Well,
you
I
guys?
think that for us, continuing to build the momentum and maintain what we've got going is really important. And it's really important that we become a major international player. And so we've put a lot of effort into international relationships, because ultimately that helps the economy in the state of Arizona as well. There's a lot of vendors in
Yes.
this area in particular that sell their products and services worldwide. And if we can bring more mining companies from other countries in to see those products, it's good for the state of Arizona. It's good for us. I think continuing to build the workforce at the undergraduate level is also important because of the retirements in the industry. We have to maintain a steady flow of top talent coming in.
Are you, and I say you, are the mining engineering schools in the U.S. producing enough students to meet the demand?
No.
Okay.
And you know, we've been short by a factor of about 3.
Wow.
For several years now. And even though enrollments have increased, the graduation rates and degrees produced still are not what
Haven't
the
caught up
industry
yet.
needs. Yeah.
Wow. So there's huge opportunities for students there.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And the job market is still strong for them.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that kind of wraps up the time we've got allocated. Mary, thank you very much. I'm hoping you can come back and give us updates and talk about some of the impacts of all these projects in other areas.
I'd love to.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Lee.
Well, thanks very much.
Okay.
All right. We're going to move next to Phoenix with Bob Broscheid from the Arizona Game and Fish Department. Bob, I think we've got you coming on here. We should be bringing him up momentarily. While we're waiting to get that connection restored, let me say, Bob's taken on a new position, new assignment, I should say, at the Department of Game and Fish here in Arizona as Executive Secretary for the newly established Natural Resources Review Council. And this past January, Governor Brewer put out an executive order establishing the Natural Resources Review Council to bring together as a single point of contact a place where we could look at all of the federal decisions, proposals, activities going on land use management, land use decisions across the state of Arizona. When you realize that the majority of land in the state is managed by federal agencies, there's a need here for the state agencies to be more effective in coordinating, collaborating with our federal partners. And so the idea is that we could bring all of the state agencies together that deal with these natural resources issues, make sure we're identifying all of the appropriate materials coming from federal agencies. And there may be as many as 1,000 notices a year coming out from a wide variety of not only different agencies, but different districts within a forest, national forest, or different regional offices. And so there's just a huge volume of material, and it's easy for things to get lost or overlooked, or only certain agencies seeing things and others missing out that they should be involved with. So the NRRC is new, still getting up to speed, and Bob's been tasked with kind of trying to herd all of us cats together and make some sense out of this. Jordan, have we got him? So we're still trying to make that connection, bring that connection back again. When I was in Utah for a number of years as state geologist, we had something very similar to it, a Natural Resource Conservation Council that did a very similar thing. Turned out to be very successful. The state and federal agencies got together. We shared a lot of information. It really provided a forum for us to get to know each other and work together on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of issues were resolved by being able to sit down and work with people that you'd gotten to know. And so the council now has been meeting since January. We had a meeting just yesterday, in fact, up at the Fish and Game office. And a lot of the work right now is still in organizing the council, getting various subcommittees set up with plans and setting up how we're actually going to work and make sure that we've got the feed of data coming in, a clearinghouse of all of these notices, developing the contacts and the relationships. So it looks like no audio still. Okay, so all right. Everything was tested before we went online here, and it was working great. So I'm not sure what's happened here. So anyway, I'm not sure we're going to be able to get Bob on at all. So why don't I just kind of bring up where we stand. There's been a number of subcommittees set up now with the council. There's, I think, 8 state agencies that are now represented, the executive directors. I'm a member of that, along with the head of Fish and Game, Agriculture, Environmental Quality, Water Resources, Parks, State Lands, Department of Transportation. So that's been really interesting to bring their perspective in. They have such widespread presence across the state and a lot of potential impacts with natural resources and environmental issues. So we've apparently just completely lost the signal here. Sorry about that. I apologize. So we've got a number of subcommittees set up. We're working to set up a clearinghouse. Like I said, we expect as many as 1,000 different announcements or potential decisions coming forward from 15 to 20 different federal agencies throughout the year. And so we want a clearinghouse where those documents are coming in, a single point of contact. And it turns out there was that kind of capability in the state up until about a decade ago. For quite a few years, there was a single point of contact. It moved around to a couple different places in Arizona government. The last point was, I think, the Department of Commerce. But then the program wasn't renewed, and we're looking at restoring that. And there is a federal executive order that says if a state designates a single point of contact, all federal agencies will make sure their information comes to that SPOC, single point of contact. And that's going to facilitate our ability to make sure that we know what the feds are proposing on different land uses and management across all the different agencies, and make sure the state has a chance to be effective in giving our perspective, providing some additional insights, sharing our resources, and making sure that those federal decisions are made in light of state needs and requirements and priorities and the resources that we can bring to bear. The other thing we're doing is setting up a coordinated GIS capability, and I'm chairing that subcommittee myself. The recognition that all of us have vast amounts of data, much of it geospatial data, and data that has a location to it. And how can we find ways of integrating all of that data and bringing it together? So we're working away on that, and the plans are that we're going to bring a strategic plan together this summer for a GIS coordination, a data integration capability across the state agencies, be able to feed the data coming in from the federal agencies through this clearinghouse and link all this together. And it's going to give us a capability that we've never had before. So we're quite excited about that. There's been a planning committee put together for the NRRC to start thinking about how we're actually going to function. How are we going to work with our federal counterparts? How are we going to interact with them? How can we be better coordinated? In a lot of states, there is a Department of Natural Resources. Arizona doesn't have that. We have more of a distributed nature. So, for instance, the Arizona Geological Survey, like most of our counterparts, are independent state agencies. We report directly to the governor's office. And there's advantages to that, but one of the disadvantages is we don't have the same kind of coordination that you might have in a state with a DNR. This has given us, I think, a lot more flexibility and authority to be able to carry out our missions in the current process, but the NRRC, I think, is going to give us some additional capabilities to coordinate. We've already found that as department directors that there's been just a tremendous increase in our collaboration and getting to know each other and sharing data and sharing resources just from the past few months of this NRRC getting together. One of the efforts that we hope to talk to Bob Broscheid today is about getting the word out about the NRRC. When it first came out, I think there was some confusion. Some people interpret this in a way of almost the state was declaring war on the federal agencies who manage the lands in Arizona, and I would say that's not the case. This is a way for coordinating and working together and how we can collaborate and be more effective and more efficient at what we're doing. So we're pretty excited about it. Where we stand now is that the council is meeting on a monthly basis. The meetings are all open. And at the first meeting, I think we had 3 people in the audience. At this last meeting yesterday, it was standing room only. We're seeing more folks from the Heritage Alliance, from some of the nonprofit groups, environmental groups, other state agencies. We're seeing representatives from some of the legislative committees participating to hear more about what's going on and how we're going to be working together and recognizing the importance of this operation. So it's going to change the way that we in Arizona deal with natural resources, and I think going to be much more effective. So, well, I'm sorry that Bob wasn't able to join us today. We'll figure out what the technical glitch was, and I hope we can get that fixed so that we won't run into it again. And I'm hoping maybe we can convince him to try again next month and bring him back and give us an update, because Bob's been integral in bringing the group together and developing the outreach plans. And one of the things, like I said, we hope that he'd be able to update us on is how to get this word out to our other stakeholders, other participants around the state, and how we can work together. So by next month, we'll have a lot more of the details on that we'll be able to share. So I think as we wrap up today's broadcast, one of the things that we released here at the Arizona Geological Survey just in the last couple weeks was a new report on the shale oil and shale gas potential in the Mancos Shale. You know, shale gas, shale oil is revolutionizing petroleum production in the United States, and there hasn't been any real significant exploration activities in Arizona for this for decades. Steve Rousey and our staff took a look at existing materials and put a short report together, and it looks like the Mancos Shale up in northeast Arizona is one that is being explored actively in New Mexico, and perhaps as much as 6 billion barrels of oil may be potential production from it in New Mexico. We don't have the same kind of information or analyses of that unit here in Arizona, and so we've identified that as a target that the industry may want to be looking at and see if there's potential for producing oil or gas out of that shale unit. So that's a new report. It's on the Arizona Geological Survey website for free downloading, or take a look at it. But something new and different coming to Arizona possibly. Well, I think that wraps up our show for today. Thanks to our production crew. Mike Conway is producer, Jordan Maddie behind the camera and the production operations, our graphics crew with Arnie Bermudez and Stephanie Marr. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, we record all of our episodes. We post these online, and this should be up later today on our YouTube channel, and you can watch it at your viewing pleasure. So we hope to see you next month on Arizona Mining Review. Thanks.